The death toll from the novel coronavirus in China has now surged past 1,000, with the epicenter of the outbreak, Hubei province, hitting a record 103 deaths today. The number of infections now stands at more than 42,000. Health officials say doctors and other healthcare providers need to focus on preventing the virus from spreading. And they've also reminded provincial health institutions to refer patients with symptoms to larger government facilities for immediate attention. And despite the ongoing outbreak, millions in China are returning to work this week after an extended Chinese New Year break. Beijing has urged businesses to stay open and to restart production.
如果不复工不复产的话呢，短期内将会影响疫情防控所需的医疗物资的供应，包括呢一些疫情比较严重省份的生活资料的供应。长期来看呢，各类的生活物资，包括生产物资呢，也会面临着短缺的风险。这样呢，前线的防控呢，也是不可持续的，也难以达到战胜疫情的目标。
Hong Kong authorities are investigating a public housing estate where 2 coronavirus cases have been confirmed. More than 100 residents across 35 households have been evacuated from the Cheung Hong Estate in Tsing Yi, which is now being disinfected. 4 residents were taken to the hospital with coronavirus-like symptoms but have since tested negative. Chief Executive Carrie Lam is appealing for people in Hong Kong to show social cohesion and civic responsibility.
In order to fight this virus, Hong Kong needs the full cooperation and active participation of every member of society. This is a time for social cohesion. This is a time for every one of us to display civic responsibility.
Our correspondent Lynette Lim has been following these developments and she joins us in studio now. Lynette, are Chinese businesses taking a huge risk here by sending these employees back to work? They've said they want businesses to stay open.
Well, but in a way they are not, because a lot of people are still unable to get back to work. They're coming by road and rail. Some routes are still closed. People who are fortunate enough to return to their cities of work, many of them are put under home quarantine by their own local residential compounds. So people are still not operating at full capacity yet. In fact, in Shanghai, for example, the metro was estimated to be at 20% of its usual capacity. And as of now, I think a lot of companies that have the ability to are allowing people to work from home. Migrant workers, many of them dependent on sources of income by working in the city. They have been also hit by the fact that people are staying home, and therefore maybe demand for courier services are not as high as if business was operating as usual.
Okay, so saying all that, does this suggest then that the economic impact from the virus could actually be much worse?
Yes, and in fact, according to experts, Zhong Nanshan, the virus expert that detected the SARS virus, he said that it's expected to peak by the end of February, and this means that until then, we're expected to see that there'll be more, people will be taking a more cautious approach to resuming business openings. The service sector, for example, comprising restaurants, hotels, cinemas, for example, they estimated to lose $144 billion in the first 7 days of Chinese New Year alone. And people are also saying that it's going to be worse than the 2003 SARS outbreak for 2 reasons. One is that during the SARS 2003 period, GDP and economic growth was on an uptrend. But right now, China is growing at the slowest pace in 30 years. The other reason is that the Chinese economy has changed a lot. The structure has moved towards services, and services is heavily affected when you have disruptions to cargo and movement of people.
And also to a consumption-based economy as well. Lynette, meantime, there's this situation brewing in Hong Kong. What do we know about this housing estate there, and why are authorities so concerned?
So this housing estate in Tsing Yi is called Hongmei building, and this building, the 47th case in Hong Kong, she lived on the 3rd floor of the 7th unit of that floor. And they traced that the 12th case in Hong Kong was a man who lived 11 floors above her. So they're concerned that there's some spread, possibly through sanitary plumbing systems, because they found upon checking that one of the ventilation pipe that was connected to a discharge pipe in the bathroom, it wasn't properly sealed. So it raises fears that, the virus could be spreading from toilet to toilet via the extraction fans. And that's how the virus spread in 2003 in one of the estates in Hong Kong called Amoy Gardens, where more than 300 infections were detected.
Must have brought back some fears on that one. Lynette, thank you very much for coming in to give us some perspective on what we're seeing there in China as well as in Hong Kong. Lynette Lim.